So lads, Sophie Cunningham, obviously a player for the Indiana Fever, who got into a little bit of trouble last night. And by trouble, I mean...
Sophie Cunningham just issued one of the most ruthless clapbacks to critics who launched a petition to ban her from the WNBA after she defended Caitlin Clark. Instead of retreating or offering an apology, she fired back in a way that completely flipped the narrative, shutting down the outrage and leaving her detractors looking foolish. Her bold move has fans rallying behind her and critics grasping for a comeback. Was it the perfect way to silence a hate?
But like, there's been a lot of posts about Sophie Cunningham jerseys completely selling out. There's been a lot of posts. This is the only one. This is genuinely the only one that is quote tweeting. WNBA fans have now made a petition to have Sophie Cunningham removed from the league. You can't make this up. I love how what's the petition on right now? What's the petition?
Let me tell you about one of the most legendary responses to online hate the sports world has ever seen. Sophie Cunningham didn't just face a wave of backlash, she faced an actual petition, calling for her to be banned from the WNBA, and instead of caving under the pressure, she flipped the entire narrative on its head and delivered what might be the most epic cell phone in basketball history. The way she handled the situation is a blueprint for dealing with bitter haters who simply can't handle seeing someone stand firm with loyalty and conviction. But before we get into her iconic response, let's rewind and look at what started this firestorm in the first place.
Golden going coast to coast, and here we got another breakers here as JC Shelton.
After Sophie Cunningham stood up for Caitlin Clark, defending her from what was basically an on-court assault by Connecticut's Sun players, some salty fans completely lost the plot and launched a petition to get her banned from the league. Yes, asterisk petition asterisk. Let that sink in. Imagine being so rattled by someone showing backbone against blatant bullying that your grand solution is crowdsourcing outrage like it's a democracy issue instead of, you know, a basketball game. It was petty. It was desperate and it backfired spectacularly.
Because I know the petition only had like 100 signatures.
The petition itself was downright hilarious. When you really break it down, it barely scraped past 100 signatures. That alone tells you everything about how massive the so-called outrage really was. More people have probably signed petitions to bring back a discontinued snack than to ban Sophie Cunningham. But, of course, the media latched onto it anyway because drama will always outshine real basketball analysis. And the headlines. Now, here's where Sophie's response enters legendary territory. She didn't drop a long-winded statement. She didn't dive into arguments with trolls. Instead, she pulled off something absolutely brilliant. She quote tweeted the article about the petition. With a simple flex, her jerseys were sold out. That's it. No rant, no emotion, just a cold, clean fact straight from the market itself. The beauty of her move, it flipped the entire story on its head. While a handful of haters were trying to cancel her, actual fans were emptying shelves to grab her gear. It's like a dozen people picketing your restaurant while there's a line wrapped around the building. The message was crystal clear. Sophie's value is not up for debate, and the numbers backed her up louder than words ever could. And the best part, her jersey sales asterisk exploded, asterisk turning hate into hype and criticism into currency.
The report on the situation, and it is...
Specifically because of the very incident that sparked the petition, fans rallied behind Sophie. They saw someone finally stand up for Caitlin Clark when the officials stayed silent, and they chose to show their support the loudest way possible, with their wallets. Sophie turned controversy into commerce without even breaking a sweat. The timing of her response was flawless. She let the petition story simmer just long enough to grab attention, then calmly dropped the bombshell that her jerseys were completely sold out, like she was casually mentioning the weather. It was the social media equivalent of a mic drop, except the mic was built from pure facts and irrefutable logic. But beyond the social media masterclass, let's talk about what this move really signified. Sophie didn't just win the moment, she made a statement.
It's even worse. It's even worse than I imagined, and it was pretty grim.
She understands something fundamental about professional sports. Actions speak louder than words, and money speaks louder than both. While her critics were busy hammering out angry comments online, real fans were backing her with their wallets. The contrast between the people signing that weak petition and those buying out her jerseys perfectly captures the current divide in WNBA fandom. On one side, You've got those who want players to stay quiet, stay in line, and never stand up for themselves or their teammates. On the other, you have fans who admire loyalty, toughness, and players who refuse to be pushed around. Sophie's response didn't just defend herself, it exposed that split for what it is. It also highlighted the massive disconnect between online outrage and real-world support. The same platforms that gave oxygen to the petition were simultaneously flooded with praise. For Sophie's defense of Caitlin Clark, the loud minority tried to masquerade as the majority. But the jersey sales told a completely different story. And what makes her choice of response so brilliant is that it's bulletproof. You can argue all day about whether her actions were right or wrong, but you can't argue with receipts. People aren't just supporting her, they're buying her.
That is a flagrant one. How did you come up to the conclusion that it was unnecessary?
Merchandise numbers don't lie, and in Sophie Cunningham's case, they screamed overwhelming support. The fact that the team store had to scale back inventory and temporarily pull her jerseys due to massive demand is about as strong an endorsement as any player could hope for. Fans didn't just back her, they backed her so hard they nearly broke the system, trying to buy her gear. This entire episode also peeled back the layers of hypocrisy among certain WNBA fans. Many claim to champion women standing up for themselves until it's a woman standing up in a way they personally disagree with. Sophie literally defended a teammate who was being targeted, and somehow that turned her into a villain in some circles. The mental gymnastics required to twist that into a negative could earn gold medals. And let's be clear, the petition was always doomed from the start. It wasn't rooted in any serious misconduct to foul, which is part of the game.
Unnecessary contact. Wind up and unnecessary.
A flagrant 2 is a standard penalty, something that happens regularly in the game. The idea that this incident justified removal from the league shows just how out of touch some people have become. What made Sophie's response so effective was that she completely sidestepped the emotional bait her critics dangled. They wanted her to lash out, argue, get pulled into the drama. Instead, she hit them with straight-up capitalism. While they were online venting about her actions, she was quietly stacking merch sales. The irony, it's absolutely priceless. They launched a petition to ban her for defending a teammate, and in doing so, handed her a wave of publicity that boosted her popularity and drove her merchandise through the roof. It's like trying to boycott a movie and accidentally turning it into a box office hit. In the end, the haters played themselves spectacularly. And let's not forget, Sophie's always had a reputation as an enforcer. She's never pretended to be anything else. She doesn't apologize for backing her teammates, and she doesn't flinch when people try to villainize her for doing so. That's what makes this whole situation even sweeter. The people signing petitions clearly underestimated her, but she reminded everyone exactly who she is. The people rallying against Sophie have likely held a grudge for years, but now, ironically, they'd handed her the perfect stage to show just how irrelevant their opinions really are. And from a business standpoint, her response is nothing short of genius. She didn't spend a dime on marketing, yet she turned a supposed PR disaster into a full-blown branding win. The petition gave her national exposure, and she flipped that spotlight into sold-out merch. That's elite-level brand management. Zooming out, this whole situation aligns perfectly with the mindset of championship teams. Players who reach the top don't apologize for protecting their teammates, they own it. If being the villain is the cost of winning, so be it. Sophie embodied that attitude both on the court and in how she responded off it. And let's be clear, this wasn't some accidental moment of good timing. Her response wasn't just clever, it was calculated. By directly linking her jersey sellout to the controversy, Sophie made it crystal clear. She saw the criticism, and she simply didn't care. That level of confidence, paired with sharp, strategic thinking, elevated her move from a reaction to a statement. What's especially impressive is how she managed to dismiss the entire situation without being disrespectful. She didn't attack the petitioners, didn't throw insults, didn't get dragged into a war of words. She just laid out the numbers, cold, objective facts that made the outrage look petty and laughable. Sometimes, the most brutal clapbacks are the ones that don't even acknowledge the other side is worth debating, and their ripple effects, they're just beginning. You can bet other players are watching closely. With this controversy, Sophie essentially wrote the blueprint for turning hate into profit while keeping her dignity intact and staying true to her principles. The overwhelming fan support that followed her response proves something crucial. People value authenticity far more than performative political correctness. Fans want players who will defend their teammates and then stand firmly behind those actions, unapologetically. Sophie delivered on both fronts. This moment also underscores a broader shift in women's sports. Athletes are becoming more willing to lean into controversy when it means standing up for what they believe is right. Sophie's response sends a clear message. You don't have to apologize for having a backbone, and you definitely don't have to conform to the expectations of people who want you to shrink or stay silent. Did more to help Sophie's career than hurt it. She gained national attention, boosted her merchandise sales, and solidified her image as someone who refuses to be bullied by online mobs. That kind of reputation isn't just powerful in the moment, it pays dividends throughout a player's career. Brands, fans, and even teammates gravitate toward athletes who stay authentic under pressure. What makes her response truly legendary is how effortless it seemed. She didn't need to write a lengthy statement, call a press conference, or bring in a PR team. She let the market do the talking. When your actions actually grow your popularity and income, there's no need to justify them with words. Encapsulates a growing disconnect between social media outrage and real-world support. The loudest voices calling for Sophie to be banned clearly weren't the ones buying tickets, merchandise, or showing up to games, and Sophie's response made that distinction crystal clear. She also sent a strong message not just to critics, but to future opponents about what happens when you mess with Indiana Fever players. She made it known that defending your teammates doesn't lead to backlash or discipline. It leads to overwhelming fan support and increased popularity. That's the exact kind of culture that championship teams are built on, one where loyalty is respected, not punished. The timing couldn't have been more perfect either. A conversation, which meant Sophie's response landed right in the middle of a spotlight. She effectively hijacked a negative news cycle and turned it into a wave of positive press on personal brand growth. Comparable situations in other sports are few and far between. It's rare to see a response this precise, this effective, and this profitable. Most athletes either try to ignore the controversy or get caught up in defending themselves. Sophie took a completely different route. She embraced the moment, monetized it, and did so while barely giving her critics the satisfaction of a direct reply. The fact that her jersey sales spiked so dramatically they had to temporarily halt. Online order says everything for any professional athlete under fire. That's a dream scenario. It proves that public perception isn't driven by the loudest voices online, it's driven by real fans. Real money and real support. Sophie didn't just weather the storm, she turned it into a tailwind. The people who actually matter, the paying fans, overwhelmingly backed her. Sophie's response wasn't just a PR win, it's likely to become a case study in sports marketing classes for years to come. She took what could have been a career setback and effortlessly turned it into a defining career moment. That kind of composure, awareness, and strategic thinking is what separates good players from great ones. As for the critics who launched the petition, they probably regret ever putting Sophie's name in the spotlight. Their attempt to damage her reputation ended up spotlighting her popularity, fueling her merch sales, and giving her a massive platform to shine. In a twist of irony, they basically did the job of a professional marketing team without even realizing it. And beyond all that, Sophie's response underscored something crucial about fan loyalty in women's sports. People today don't just want athletes who can play, they want athletes with character, with heart, and with the courage to stand up for what's right. Sophie proved she has all of that, and the market responded in kind. Her surge in jersey sales wasn't just a win, it was validation. This entire situation became a textbook example of how to navigate adversity in the social media era. No emotional outbursts, no defensive rants, just quiet confidence and undeniable results. Sophie didn't need to argue her case. Her jersey sales said everything that needed to be said. Sometimes the most powerful statement is success. What makes this response so satisfying for fans is that it validated their support in the most public, undeniable way. Instead of feeling conflicted for backing someone who stood up for their favorite player, they got to celebrate a moment where controversy turned into triumph. It's a kind of full circle. feel-good story that sports fans live for. The petition signers likely thought they were going to shame Sophie into backing down or issuing an apology. Instead, they handed her a platform to showcase just how effective and popular her approach really is. In a twist of poetic irony, they became unpaid marketing assistants for the very person they were trying to bring down. This entire saga highlights exactly why Sophie Cunningham has quickly become a fan favorite. She stands tall for her teammates when it counts, and she faces the fallout with grace, poise, and quiet confidence. That's the kind of presence every fan wants on their roster, someone who shows up when it matters most. And the brilliance of it all, her response was stunningly simple. No drawn-out explanations, no dramatic statements, no emotional appeals, no back-and-forth debates, just pure, undeniable facts about market demand. That's what made Sophie Cunningham's response so powerful. It didn't even acknowledge the criticism as worthy of a serious rebuttal, and that's exactly why it hit so hard. She took what could have been a career low point and flipped it into a highlight moment with one perfectly timed tweet. That's the definition of clutch, not in the final seconds of a game, but in the middle of a media storm. Sophie Cunningham just gave every athlete a blueprint for handling hate. Don't argue. Don't beg for approval, let your success speak louder than their outrage. While the haters wasted time signing angry petitions, she was moving product and making headlines. Her jersey sales explosion proves something simple but vital: fans respect authenticity, loyalty, and backbone more than they care about appeasing the outrage machine. This wasn't just a response, it was a masterclass in flipping a narrative, owning your brand and turning backlash into business. So, what did I think of her savage response?